Video games are in a weird place in their artistic maturity. Despite being one of the highest grossing commodities dominating the general public, it still hasn't developed the same environment for objectivity the way that music, film, or literature does. It feels incredibly natural to argue about the integrity of literary works, especially that of the traditional academic and Western canon, but applying the same lens of critical analysis towards gaming feels strange. And I think there are a myriad of reasons for this, which I don't think I can fully articulate within this video, but I believe we're making that shift right now. A number of developer and thinkers are beginning to respect video games as their own medium, giving it the consideration of an art form itself. But it's just that these views are not very homogeneous or even fruitful to the medium, and sometimes it's also very contradictory and definitions are in their developmental stages that it's hard to even know where to start. So why don't we start with a seemingly simple question. What is a video game? This is actually a very difficult question, but luckily there are a number of people who have already thought of this before, one of which is Jane McGonigal. In her book, Reality is Broken: Why Games Make Us Better and How They Can Change the World, she details 4 defining traits of a game.
Games have goals, the specific outcome of the player will work to achieve.
This view is also very similar to a definition developed by game designer Chris Crawford. In this neatly designed flowchart, you can see how McGonigal's criteria for goals and feedback are emphasized. Following their definitions, games are then interactable forms of entertainment that include goals and agents which can tangibly impede on those goals. In the context of a video game, the agents and space that it all occupies exist digitally in some capacity. This definition is good, but not great. For one, Chris Crawford makes a distinction that entertainment and therefore games do not meet the criteria to be art. I will remind you that much of what makes up art history were the products of commissions. Art is commerce, baby, and that is ignoring the more significant contradictions of experiences I'm sure that we've all felt. When we see a good movie, when we read a good book, or play a good game, doing so was akin to enjoying pieces of art. And Jane McGonigal would agree that games occupy the same space as art, but her insistence that games, being designed by happiness engineers to be fun, well, it also provides issues to the definition. So we have here a conflict between 2 seemingly opposing ideas about what video games are and can be that shapes the discourse in the creation of its definition. Here I want to establish one of the main concepts of dialectics in this video. Dialectics are when, in order to understand the truth, you attempt the paradoxical feat of accepting 2 different extreme contradictory realities. Accepting this idea of dialectics may allow for entertainment, art, and games to all be conspicuously linked. Most games are developed under this umbrella term of entertainment, but entertainment is not intrinsically linked to positive emotions like happiness or fun. I wouldn't consider Requiem for a Dream a fun movie, but it still lies in the realm of entertainment. And we know this already. Even in the classical age, philosophers like Aristotle had already mapped the ways entertainment might not give us positive emotions, but still act as positive experiences. This is the concept of Greek catharsis, where we can vicariously and safely experience extreme emotions and have it enrich ourselves, give us altitudinal pleasures like self-knowledge, self-actualization, meaning, connection, intimacy, things that art does. And with this understanding, our working definition becomes something like this. Again, not perfect, but with dialectics, it might be closer to the ultimate truth we're all attempting to find that McGonigal and Crawford just couldn't. We can agree that video games operate in the realm of art, that movies, books, and paintings do. But now we have the question of, how does it operate in it? Let's look at one of my favorite game franchises of all time, God of War. These games were incredibly well designed and well received at their time. The game was heralded for its brutality and action. The series would demonstrate its influence for many years in the games following, in hit-stun combo-centric combat and cinematic quick-time events. But these games in recent times, following the wake of God of War for the PlayStation 4, has seen a shift in discussion mirroring the shift of attitudes regarding video games as art. The previous games were antiquated relics of video game design that favored mindless violence in place of God of War 4's new approach, which embodies a much more mature narrative which supplements its action-fueled campaign. God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2, The Last of Us, BioShock series, in the existing discussion, these games are often highlighted as examples of video games existing as art. But these distinctions exist solely off the merit of narrative quality alone. But, and I say this as an avid enjoyee of these games and their campaigns, if we measure artistic value by a game's narrative alone, games will have no power beyond being interactable movies. Let's take this emotional scene from The Last of Us. The whole game works to establish a relationship between these two, Joel and Ellie, and at this point it's established that Ellie shouldn't use a gun. She then shoots a person, saving Joel, and it's a really good cutscene, great storytelling.
I shot the hell out of that guy, huh?
But it's not really making use of the medium it exists in. And it does not at all represent a significant advancement in the maturity of games as journalism might lead you to believe. The previous God of War games are arguably equally as rich in their narrative. I can't go too in depth in this video here, but I can describe the ways the previous games have used the medium to tell a compelling story in a way that only games could have expressed. As we have discussed, games are defined by their interactivity, but this interactivity is not limitless. There are rules and method, either evoked by the player or agents designed by interaction of the game state. These are mechanics described by Miguel Sicard, and exist as part of the design of a game that lets you do a thing, and they are in all games. In the God of War series, one of the most iconic mechanics is the QuickTime event. Find a door, or need to execute a low health enemy. Any event that requires significant strength by Kratos, you'll be prompted to bash the circle button over and over. This is a tired game mechanic, and at this point has been done to death, but God of War, as pioneer of this technique, uses its mechanic to elevate itself to the realm of art. The whole series has you bashing circles to kill minotaurs or rip heads off, but you reach this point in the game, where you need to abandon your daughter to save her, and it uses the same mechanic to frame the narrative difficulty. The use of this mechanic suggests that this is one of the hardest things Kratos has to do, and it isn't explicitly shown. It's not done through some cutscene, though it easily could have, but the game would have been significantly weaker for it. This is gameplay combined with mechanics to communicate a message. This is a game operating as art. The modern games do this as well. In God of War for the PlayStation 4, the game builds the relationship between Kratos and his new child. Throughout the game, there's a mechanic where you can call on Atreus to summon spectral allies. And through the narrative of the game, as Atreus gains more autonomy or becomes more obstinate, he may summon spectral hordes on his own, often using up an important cooldowns or refusing to heed your orders. And this is all expressed through cutscenes, yes, but it's the game, through its mechanics, that really reinforce these ideas, and that's the stuff that should be acknowledged or judged for artistic merit. I think this weird place we are in thinking of games as art has to do with this idea of game literacy. The same process has happened before, with film in particular. It took us a while for us as an audience to really internalize the new ways media could express things. For example, we intuitively understand that a fade in a film signals a transition in time and space. But even that was a new technique once, the first time someone did it, and probably confused quite a few people in the audience at first. And there are now a number of conventions we can identify and reward or disparage films with, in their attentiveness to not just the narrative, but the execution of the craft itself. And I think we've yet to reach that place with video games. I think we're getting close, though. It's evident in the work of some game developers and even some gamers. But, where does that leave us now? In my accompanying paper to this video, I offer some of the solutions to the reasons why I think games haven't been taken that seriously. The stuff that I glossed over at the beginning. But it all comes down to needing more places for video games to be seen as art. Whether it gets accepted into the literary canon, in academics, or even in discussion boards or video essays like this. And hopefully this video and the discussion I hope it inspires further develops video games into beautiful artistic maturity. Maybe games will reach their full potential and expressing self-actualization and meaning. Or maybe we'll just keep getting a bunch of games that are mid.